Welcome to the very first episode of my podcast, Finding My Path. I want to start by sharing something that might feel familiar to many of you. My spiritual awakening didn't happen overnight. It began slowly, quietly, almost like life was whispering to me through experiences that kept repeating themselves. Over time, I started noticing repeating emotional patterns in my relationships. Even when the relationships themselves were meaningful and long, the same inner lessons kept coming up again and again. And I reached a point where I felt there has to be something more than this. There has to be something I'm not seeing. That's when things started to shift. I began noticing numbers everywhere. 1111, 2222, repeating sequences. Signs popping up so consistently that it became impossible to ignore. At first I thought, this has to mean something. So I started searching, Googling, trying to understand why the universe was speaking to me in numbers. That search led me to manifestation, to spiritual teachers, to concepts like twin flames, to energy work, and to a part of myself I had never explored before. I started meditating. I found my first course teacher, someone who introduced me to the basics of energy work, intuition, the law of attraction, and feminine and masculine energy. Even though I learned about the law of attraction, feminine and masculine energy, meditation, and how to listen to my intuition, I still felt like something was missing. Many teachers of feminine and masculine energy focus more on techniques. They teach things like, if you act this way, the other person will come back to you. This doesn't mean these teachers are bad people. They share what they know based on their own level of awareness and the stage they are at in their journey. And in many ways, this information can still be helpful. It can teach you to notice your boundaries in love, especially if you never learned to recognize them before. But in reality, what often happens is this. You are not creating real connection. You are triggering someone else's anxiety. You're activating their insecurity so they reach out, ask how you're doing, or seek reassurance. Psychological techniques used to get someone's attention do not create deep, genuine connection. They create reactions. Real connection is not built through control or strategy. It's created when you dare to be vulnerable. Little by little, my inner world began to transform. Through the law of attraction and meditation, I experienced how life can flow. When I was fully present, beautiful things naturally found their way to me. Money came in. I experienced ease, generosity, even unexpected upgrades while traveling. It felt like doors were opening all around me. Then something deeper happened. My intuition became louder, stronger, clearer. And one day it gave me a message that was impossible to unhear. You need to move to Spain. It felt crazy and at the same time perfectly right. So I followed it. I talked with my employer and asked if I could switch to remote work from Spain. Surprisingly, everything aligned. Doors opened, synchronicities appeared, and suddenly I found myself packing my life into a few suitcases and moving across Europe, guided by faith, intuition, and a feeling this is where my real awakening began. And only after arriving in Spain did I truly understand something important. I noticed that, like many people who experience a spiritual awakening, I had often felt lonely in my previous surroundings. It was difficult to talk about what I was going through with friends or people close to me, not because they didn't care, but because this world was unfamiliar and new to them. For a long time, the only place where I felt truly understood was online, through conversations and connection with people who were on similar paths. But when I arrived in Spain, something shifted. For the first time, I felt like I had come home. Here, there are so many spiritually awakened people, so many open conversations, shared language, and mutual understanding. And the sense of belonging changed everything. When I arrived in Spain, I started meeting people everywhere, from every corner of life, who were spiritual, intuitive, manifesting their dreams, seeing numbers, talking about energy, alignment, and soul connections. Many people spoke about twin flames, soul connections, mirror dynamics, and deep spiritual awakenings. I kept seeing the same themes repeating. In conversations, events, gatherings, I met energy readers, healers, and people living through their own awakenings. Everywhere I went, a cafe, a dance class, a social gathering, I met someone who was either doing energy work, healing, or walking a deeply conscious path. It felt intentional, like none of it was random. That's when I was introduced to the law of assumption and Neville Goddard's teachings. The idea that thoughts create reality, that beliefs and the feeling of knowing something is yours are key to manifestation. That understanding was deep and truly life-changing. But there is a catch. Many manifestation teachers teach this in a very simplified way. That you just need to repeat a thought many times a day, every day, and eventually it will manifest, even if you don't truly believe it. On a surface level, this can seem true, but it's not that simple. Forcing thoughts can create more anxiety. It can activate the nervous system instead of calming it. And this is where people start blaming themselves. Others manifest relationship, money, entire lives, but I can't. What's wrong with me? This is where psychological and social media comparison comes in. Because in reality, you don't know what is truly happening in someone else's life. As my journey continued, something else became important. Movement. Dance. When I discovered the joy of dance, I began to understand it on a deeper level. Dance helps the nervous system relax. And because our nervous system stores emotions deeply in the body, movement becomes a way to release suppressed emotions. Through dance, the body lets go of what it has been holding on to, creating space for new beliefs. All of these people, experiences, and realizations are part of my story. And through this podcast, I want to bring them to you. I want to interview the healers, the light workers, the dancers, the guides, and the awakened souls I've met. So their stories, lessons, and energy can support you on your journey as well. Because none of this was an accident. Every encounter, every sign, every person was part of a bigger path. And this podcast is where the path continues. Thank you for listening.